Good evening, everybody. It's a beautiful day. Thank God we are alive today to the glory of God. I am Tuneo Gedengbe, the lead pastor of Kingdom Arena here in United Kingdom, Luton, United Kingdom. Today is another wonderful day to continue with our Awaken the Leadership in You. Remember, we started about 2 weeks ago and we are focused on the book in the last 2 weeks. And the idea is to look at a book that can enhance our leadership growth, our leadership skills growth, that can help us to grow in the counsel of God. I understand that my face is quite dark for those of you who are viewing me from where I either view me on Facebook or YouTube. Please just bear with us. Thank you for those of you who are connected with us on Facebook and those who are already connected on the YouTube, where my face is dark because of the fact that the light is not that close, and unfortunately the light that I also brought, I didn't notice that the bulb is gone. So I will make up for that later on in the subsequent broadcast. But meanwhile, I think I need to move this to stay. Yes. So that stops flapping. Tonight we are going to look at another book. We have finished the one of the 2 weeks ago, which have to do with the 11 keys of leadership. So today we are going to look at another book. But what I found out about these books is that 2 weeks are actually not enough to be able to. They actually not enough to be able to do good justice to the teaching. So I'll try to slow down a little bit so as to be able to capture the whole essence of the book so that we don't miss out, since what we are doing is analyzing and summarizing the book. We're not reviewing it, but we're trying to see the cogent point of the book, and therefore, by looking at the cogent point of the book, we draw lessons from the book, looking at what is the intention of the author of the book. So the book we are going to be focusing on today is power thinking. Remember, the whole essence of this broadcast of Awaken the Leadership in You is to begin to teach you and to empower you mentally with skills to help you to develop mentally so that you are able to play your game well on the platform that God has given unto you. So, and the idea is to look at a book in 2 weeks, looking at the summaries, the analysis of the book, looking at the skeletal structure of the book, and then we can begin to put flesh to it in application, how it's applicable to you, and now the lessons from those books can be of great help to you. And also, I am also trying as a pastor to see these principles where they align with the Word of God. Because remember, principles are universal and normative. That's the word I was looking for. Principles are normative. They apply everywhere. So it does not respect your gender. It does not respect your color. It does not respect your affiliation. It does not even respect your spiritual affiliation, not to talk about natural affiliation. So if you get the principle, it is to work with the principle. You see, what the problem has been with the Church of Jesus, that some of us, we believers, and looking at the pattern of things and looking at things that have happened over the years, what you see is that we love the presence of Jesus, but we don't like the principles of Jesus. You see, coming to church is liking the presence of Jesus, but living church, carrying the presence of Jesus with us, also become imperative that we walk with the principles of Jesus. See, if anybody doesn't love the presence of Jesus but gets hold of the principles of Jesus, things will still work for them. All things being equal. Things, because the principles are the same. Okay, for example, look at the principle of gravity. It's the principles that eventually become, that are laws in nature. So look at the principle of gravity. Do you know that it works anywhere? It doesn't respect geographical location, in the sense of the fact that the north-south divide, the global north and the global south. The global north is rich, and the global south is not that rich. But principle of gravity doesn't respect anyone. Anywhere it works. But what the global north has done is to make use of the principles of gravity to create different products that take advantage of the principles. That's what they have done. Aeroplane flying, they have to look for another law that can subdue the law of gravity for aeroplanes to be suspended in the midair and to travel from one end to the other. But they were not necessarily believers. So what this Awaken the Leadership in You is particularly to teach you and I the principles of Jesus, because Jesus is the ultimate creator. Jesus is the one who creates these things on earth, and he created them for his creation. Not only the people of the kingdom of God. Anyway, everything was supposed to be under the kingdom, was supposed to be operating under the kingdom, because the kingdom of God rules over until Adam committed a felony. The felony that Adam committed is what brings a separation, a dichotomy of status, that we can now say some people are children of God, some are not the children of God, some are the children of the devil. But Jesus Christ has become a leveler to say we can become the children of God. But becoming the children of God is not enough. We've got to have to learn to also walk in the principles of Jesus. The principle of Jesus is what makes things run. Is what makes things run, because the principles of Jesus are embedded in the instructions, are embedded in the words that he gives to us. But many of us love to worship him, but don't know how to obey him, or don't like to obey him. And if we then discover certain principles that can help us to play our game well upon the earth, then the best thing is to subscribe to those principles. Why is it that the church of Jesus is so poor and the whole world is rich? It's because majority of believers do not know how to walk by the principles of wealth creation. It is. So it's a learning process. We have got to learn those principles and begin to walk in those principles so that we can benefit from them. So when we are now talking about this particular broadcast about Awaken the Leadership in You, is to begin to teach you certain principles for mental empowerment. And remember, what you must also understand is that your transformation, your transformation is actually only going to show through the renewal of your mind. Somebody says, well, going to church makes you to become brainwashed. Of course, your brain needs to be washed. It needs to be washed in alignment with the God's kingdom, with how things operate in God's kingdom. So today is the first day of us looking at this book, Power Thinker, and how the way you think can change the way you lead. How the way you think can change the way you lead. So what that therefore means is this: we're looking at a book written by John Mangere. John Mangere is president of the Center for Leadership and Personal Development. He was a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh. Dr. Mangere has served on the faculties of 3 universities. He has also acted as a consultant and leadership training program provider to a number of major corporations. Dr. Mangere is the author of 91 professional articles. He's a doctor. He's a PhD holder and 12 books. He's written 12 books. but the book is jointly written with another person, Kathy Block. This Kathy Block, a woman, is a professor of Texas Christian University, and she is a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, Madison. Dr. Block also has a broad range of experience in the field of education. So she's the author of 53 research articles and 17 books. By the way, you can get this book also on Amazon to help you. Listen, you can begin to build a library of leadership development books that can help you to play your game well, to play your game in a proficient way, to play it without because knowledge brings empowerment if you harness it. So knowledge is just not power. It is a knowledge that you harness that becomes power. So the whole idea of this awaken the leadership in you is to what begin to give you resources that are going to help you to be able to harness the power of knowledge. So the main idea of this book is that few people are taught on how to think. Instead, most managers and leaders try and get by on the patterns and habits of thinking which were acquired by chance in childhood. What should you do now that you are a child of God? The scripture says, be ye not conformed to this world. The principles of God work whether in this world, work whether for believers or unbelievers. But we want to create a competitive advantage for us as believers so that when we gather this knowledge, we are able to run with, we are able to become change agents in our generation. So the idea of this book is to teach us processes, both internal and external processes within certain domains to help us to know how to think. That's why it's called power thinking. So, and it's best to know a better approach to analyze and systematically improve on how we actually think. Many of us are living in a rut. It's the same way we have always been thinking we are thinking. In fact, that creates a barrier for the word of God to be able to bring a lasting change to us. You're changing your spirit, but in your mind, you are not changed. It takes the renewal of your thought patterns, renewal of your thinking system that makes you to be able to reveal the transformation that has already taken place in your spirit, man. So the power thinking that we're going to be looking at is the science and the art of becoming better at thinking. This book is going to help you to become better at thinking because people that are power thinkers, they are skillful and competent in three major thinking domains. Three major thinking domains. And take note of that, write those things down. You see, what would have been good with this is to have this as a seminar. But then that will have to be a whole day seminar, reviewing the book. But then it will have to be, the barrier of distance, the barrier of getting to a place whereby you can do that, it's there. But thank God for Facebook, thank God for YouTube, thank God for Zoom that can help us to be able to cut short the barriers of distance. As I am talking to you right now, God knows where you are watching me tonight, where you are listening to me tonight. So three domains. In order for you to be a power thinker, there are three domains which you have to be aware of. The first domain is the domain of reasoning. The domain of reasoning. That is the ability to think before acting. Have you ever been told that how are you so dumb? Don't you think before you act? It means you need to up your game. You need to increase your level because to analyze and systematically improve how you actually think will help you to become a power thinker. Now, remember, the scripture says in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7 as well, that the way a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So this is a strategy to help you to begin to think differently on certain issues. Remember, this is a mental empowerment. This is not a spiritual empowerment. This is like going to school. And when you go to school, they don't teach you Bible, Bible, Bible throughout all the courses you learn. Yeah, you can have a Bible course, religious knowledge, or yes, religious knowledge that they teach you, and then they even don't even teach you what they should teach you, what the church teaches you. Wednesday is empowerment hour, and that's spiritual empowerment, where we focus on the word of God. But on a day like this Friday is mental empowerment, when we look at books that can help us to change our thinking pattern in terms of mental acquisition, gathering certain skills that can help us to play our game well on earth, in whatever domain or in whatever platform that we are presently operating. So 3 domains concerning this power thinking: a domain of reasoning, in which your ability to think before acting increases. The other one is insight, the domain of insight, that is harnessing instincts to develop superior ideas. Harnessing instincts to develop superior ideas. And while I was saying that, a portion of scriptures came to my mind, which I want to share with you, and that is in the book of Philippians. I think Philippians chapter 1, that this is going to help us, and to see that, listen, all these principles that have been distilled by men, they are all in the Bible. They are in the Word of God, because God's words are eternal. His words are settled in heaven, and they are settled on earth. It's just that we don't know how to distill or precipitate those principles and make them useful for our lives. All what we are thinking is about going to heaven. Going to heaven is good, but God didn't create us for heaven. He didn't create us for heaven. He created us. He says the heaven belongs to God, but the earth has it given to the children of men. He's giving us the earth. At the end of all God's processes and actions in God's timetable, we're still coming back to this earth, new earth. But you see, what God had done, original idea of God is the earth and the heaven become one together. Become one together. But sin is what brought the separation. So eventually, when the new heaven and the new earth, wherein dwells righteousness, is created, going to heaven will be easy. You will be here on earth, but you can go just as Jesus traverses heaven and earth. In the same way in which Jesus went into heaven, by the time the new heaven and the new earth comes, you can go and come. There will be no barrier. The the middle heaven, God would have done something with it. Why? Because God's original idea from beginning of creation of the earth is that the heaven and the earth sync together. They works in sync. So, but now, if God's original idea is that the heaven and the earth syncs together, then you might well have a test practice from now to see how God, who had created you for dominion, how do you have dominion within the realm and the platform that God had given unto you? It starts with thinking. Because with your thinking faculty is the way you relate with people upon the earth, motivated by the values of your spirit, of course. So what I'm saying here, therefore, is that insight. Now, that portion of scriptures that I was talking about, I would like to just read it out for us. And I think I would like to read it from New International Version. That's the book of Philippians chapter 1, verse 9. Philippians chapter 1, verse 9. See what it says. Now, because I'm talking about a domain of reasoning, a domain that is going to help you to develop power thinking abilities, power thinking skills. In fact, another one, maybe you can call it is critical thinking, but we're not particularly focusing on critical thinking skill because there are certain parameters and frameworks that also define critical thinking. But this is power thinking. So reason is the first domain that we have to look at, which is the ability to think and act before acting. To think before acting. Then the next one, the other domain is insight, harnessing instincts to develop superior ideas. Now, see what the word of God says in Philippians 1, verse 9. I love this. And I'm reading it from the International Version. It says, and this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. So you can see insight is something that you and I have to explore. We have to be able to explore insight for better performance in on our platform in every domain in which we operate. So when we're talking about this power thinking, I'm talking about three domains in which you have to up your game and develop your thinking skills. So the third domain is self-knowledge, which clearly define attitudes and beliefs. Self-knowledge, where you can clearly develop, where you can self-knowledge, that is, in actual fact, when you're talking about emotional intelligence, that's part of the parameters that define emotional intelligence skill. You talk about self-awareness, self-knowledge. So when we're talking about self-awareness now, we're talking about self-knowledge. So you can see some of these concepts that have been put forward, they are just like being recycled, and people are attaching certain names to these different, but it's the same concept. So when we're talking about power thinking now, so emotional intelligence comes in now. When you look at one of the parameters that defines emotional intelligence is self-awareness, which is based on self-knowledge. So there is a domain in power thinking, developing skills for power thinking, that is called self-knowledge, which is the domain whereby you develop clearly defined attitudes and beliefs. So by improving the quality of your thinking habits in each of these domains, you can become better at making decisions, solving problems, and acting creatively. That's also what critical thinking is about. But I'm not focusing on critical thinking right now because I am not teaching you. The book is not about critical thinking, or it could have. I think the book was actually written because critical thinking and emotional intelligence became buzzwords that everybody uses in our day today, in business world, in the field of leadership and management. However, you can call this critical thinking, but it's not critical thinking, it's power thinking, because it focuses on a book that we're analyzing and summarizing. So by improving the quality of your thinking habits in each domain of reasoning, insight, and self-knowledge, you can become better at making decisions, which is what critical thinking skill also helps you with, solving problems and acting creatively. Because when you look at the last spectrum of critical thinking, it's for you to be able to create a solution to an existing problem. You have the framework looking at Bloom taxonomy of that perfectly represents the framework of critical thinking. You can see at the apogee, at the summit of that pyramid, there, you just like the pyramid, you have a Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, at the top of the hierarchy of needs, there you have self-actualization. So it is compared with Bloom's taxonomy, whereby at the top of the pyramid you have creating of solution. However, prior to creating solution, you have analysis and evaluation as some of the frameworks, some of the processes that you have to become adept at doing in order for you to be able to create. So power thinking is all about what? Acting creatively, making decisions, solving problems. Enhancing the efficiency of your thinking skills will help you become a better leader, a better business leader, a better personal leader. You'll be able to help to lead yourself, a better manager at work, and may form the foundation for a sustainable development, a sustainable competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is what a business would have against another that makes him to have a better bottom line than his competitor. And guess what? You can create that as well by developing yourself. So that's what we're looking at right now. If your thinking paradigm is changed, and you are able to incorporate, you are able to develop these thinking skills, you will discover that personally or for your corporation, for your business, you have a competitive advantage over your competitors, over others. So let's start with the reasoning domain. The reasoning domain is located in your conscious mind. I don't want to go into the classification of the mind right now because it's going to take us out of the book. But the reasoning is located in your conscious mind, not subconscious. This is where your mind reaches decisions and solves problems after a considerable amount of thought. Power thinkers are highly skilled. So the game here is to develop your thinking skills so that you can become highly skilled at employing exceptional levels of reasoning. They use four internal processes to generate high quality thoughts and then take four external actions as a consequence of their decisions. So when we look, this book is saying there are three domains in which a power thinker operates. It operates in the domain of reasoning. It also operates in the domain of insight. It also operates in the domain of self-knowledge. Self-knowledge. That is, know who you are, being aware of your giftings, being aware of your propensities, being aware of your tendencies, being aware of your weaknesses and strength, being aware of your passions, being aware of your pains, being aware of what you could use to make gains through your pains. So reason is located in, and this takes place in the conscious mind. So power thinkers are highly skilled at employing exceptional levels of reasoning. They use four internal processes to generate high quality thoughts, not just one, thoughts, and then take four external actions as a consequence of their decisions that they have already made in their mind. So, what are those internal processes? Fair-minded arbitrator. They develop within the domain of reasoning. They are fair-minded, fair to be fair, not fear, fair-minded arbitrator. They are unconstricted thinkers. They are also auspicious completer, fearless completer. Auspicious means fearless. Auspicious completer. They are also judicious analysts. So you can also see the element of critical thinking at play in this, looking at the framework of power thinking right now. If you begin to just only look at the reasoning domain, that in the internal processes, that which is not seen, but which can be developed in the processes of your thinking, that is, as fair-minded arbitrator, unconstricted thinker, and unsuspicious completer. Unsuspicious just basically mean a fearless completer. That is, you are dogged, you are tenacious, you are dogged, you don't easily give up. You are like a bulldog. The moment you bite it, you don't let go until you have achieved your aim, until you have achieved your goal. So this is what this is talking about. So there are internal resolutions. That's what he's saying. These internal processes are internal resolutions, and there are four of them in the domain of reasoning that you will need to develop to become a power thinker. So fair-minded arbitrator, that is, now let me, and you see, when you have these four internal processes, it also leads to four external processes. So let me first of all list, don't forget, it is from the book Power Thinking that is written by John Mangieri. You can get it on Amazon. It's £18 on Amazon. Somebody is saying, are you helping them to sell their books? Why not? If it's going to bless me. This is somebody's experience of many years put down into a certain number of pages, and it's going to benefit me. Why not? If it's going to benefit me and can benefit you, why don't you get it? If you have the money, go ahead and get it. Otherwise, you can play this game, you can play this tape again and again, either on YouTube or Facebook. Subscribe to our channel so that when Awaken the Leadership in You comes up, it aligns you. You can go back again and listen to it again and again and see what did that man say when he was talking about power thinking, developing thinking skills. I'm tempted to call it critical thinking skills, but it's not, because the frameworks are different from one another. Critical thinking skill is what you also acquire that is going to help you to create a competitive advantage over your colleagues or over your business partners in how you approach situations and circumstances and make decisions and solve problems and create solutions. So now, four internal processes for the domain of the reasoning domain. We have looked at fair-minded arbitrator. Now, and then there is also four external processes: bold pioneer, provocative communicator, resolute questioner, planning implementer. Oh, doesn't that look? You may think, oh, this is too much. It's not too much. You see, when new knowledge comes to your brain, it looks like an assault. But guess what? This is the reason why power thinker, they what? They look at information and they don't just discard it. They consider it, they toy with it, they begin to inspect it and prospect in it, and from there, they can adopt it because it's going to bring a change. So let me quickly now look at power, look at this reason, because time is not on our side really to be able to go through this book to show you the summaries, the analysis of the book to help you. But if you are one of the things you have to do, you have to love knowledge. So I'm enjoining you. I'm beseeching you. I'm asking you, go get the book, £18. But don't get it to decorate your home. Get it to remember the book we looked at, the 11 keys of leadership in the last 2 weeks, and where we look at five core roles as a leader that you have to play: the vision role, the encouragement role. But I'm not going over that again. But you see, the moment you've got this, nobody can take it away from you. You can go back again and again and see, because what? You are acquiring knowledge. When you open your mouth, you don't sound stupid. Because the books, you know what these books do? These are the knowledge, these are the experiences of people. I once remember, what's his name now? Mike Murdoch at a conference in London said he went to Australia with his assistant. And then maybe I've forgotten this man, Daniel. He's a multi-millionaire. I forgot his name. Whether it's him or not, I'm not so sure again. But then the man wrote a book, and the book was being sold for £75. I mean, $75, 75 Australian dollars. And so he asked his personal assistant to get the book. And the man was hesitant in getting the book. $75 to buy a book. He was, in fact, he had to let go of the man eventually. He said, do you know why I'm buying that book? I said, buy the book. You are challenging, why am I buying it at $75? This is the man's 30 years experience he has put into a book. I am buying 30 years experience at $75, and you are questioning me as your employer? I think he fired the guy eventually. Listen, ignorance is more expensive. It's more expensive than knowledge. And many of us are buying ignorance every day expensively. Well, you are not buying knowledge. And no wonder the scripture says, buy the truth. Truth is disseminated through knowledge. Jesus is the treasure of knowledge. Is the treasure of wisdom and knowledge. Jesus is the truth. He said, buy the truth, pay a price for the truth. When Jesus disseminates, do you think it's cheap for him to come to die? Do you think it was cheap? It wasn't cheap. Truth is not cheap. Truth is expensive, but ignorance is much more expensive. Because when you are getting new knowledge, your brain will react against it, but your brain is very malleable. You can stretch it. When you stretch it with new knowledge, it doesn't go back to the old form. Guess what? It changes. You become better. Your playing field changes. Your platform increases. Your language changes. So fair-minded, let's look at the first internal process, and the arbitrator, which is fair-minded arbitrator, because the reason that is located in your conscious mind, because that's where your decisions, where you make decisions, where you solve problems, when you engage thinking, when you engage with thinking, and you can now operate on a higher level of reasoning. So the first internal process within the domain of reasoning is fair-minded arbitrator. What does this mean? Arbitrators facilitate a negotiation and resolve conflicts through dialogue rather than exercising authority. And I will put to you that self-dialogue is first of all where this thing starts off. Because if you are not good at self-dialogue, if you are not good at, critiquing issues within yourself, you will not be good at critiquing issues with others. So, arbitrators facilitate a negotiation. And when we're talking about negotiation, dialogue is involved. So you engage your mind. You are not exercising your position. A good arbitrator will have the ability to cope with conflicting points of view. This is a development process, really. A good arbitrator will have the ability to cope with conflicting points of view, operate under pressure, demonstrate discretion and integrity, and be fair-minded about developing a solution. You don't always think it may mean anything. It may lead to the resolving of the problem at hand. But you got to what? As an arbitrator, you don't operate from the position of authority, but from the platform of dialogue. Self-dialogue, first of all, and that involves what? It involves your ability to cope with conflicting points of view, operate under pressure, demonstrate discretion and integrity, and be fair-minded about developing a solution. When power thinkers are presented with a new idea, they don't dismiss it immediately. They don't wave it up. No, that one can't work. They still inspect it. They inspect it to see if they can prospect it. They analyze the pros and cons of the new idea. They act like an arbitrator, analyzing. Remember, that's another in the spectrum of critical thinking. There is that which is called analysis. There is that which is called evaluation, where you have to ask questions. So they analyze the pros and cons of the new idea. Their objective is to do what is best for the individual or the organization, or for themselves, rather than to reward friends and punish enemies. So it's not vindictive. It's not about taking the I'm going to get him. Therefore, this is the reason why I'm doing that. No. Your aim must be better than that. You must have a good idea in pursuing solution to difficulties. So the objective is to do what is best for the individual or the organization, rather than to reward friends and punish enemies. Power thinkers always look at new ideas objectively with a view towards improving the quality of the first idea which comes to mind. So to become more of a fair-minded arbitrator as part of your internal processes, you need to avoid rushing to judgment when hearing a new idea. By first making an attempt to rephrase the idea put to you in your own words. This will show whether you really understand it first. So avoid rushing to judgment when hearing a new idea. Those is not possible. No, that can't work. You have not even inspected it. You have not even analyzed it yet. So a fair-minded arbitrator also observe the other person's body language if the communication is face-to-face, because body language is essentially a higher composition. No, let me rephrase it. A higher composite value of communication. And I think psychologists even make us that it carries the highest composition, actually, about 55%. About 55% body language. Because what we do, how we react, our body languages speak louder than our words. And then the other one is words are just 7%. 38% is carried by, if I'm right, Is my calculation right? 55 plus 38, that's 93. Yes, it's right. 93 plus 700. So 55% body language, 38% intonation, 7% words. Can you imagine? And we think words are the most vital, most important in communication. No, body language. Here he's saying that a fair-minded arbitrator consider his body language, because your body language may be speaking louder than your words. So also, a fair-minded arbitrator discards his own personal biases. Listen, all of us have biases. My wife was sharing with me something that happened in our workplace the other day, and they were saying, I think they asked, "Are you biased?" She said, "Yes, I'm biased." All of us have biases and prejudices, and which is true. We all have biases and prejudices. Some could be racial, some could be status, some could be economic, some could be. There are all kinds of biases and prejudices that we all carry, but you need to be aware of your own biases and your own prejudices, and then you don't have or confirm biases whereby you come up with hypotheses and theories to confirm your biases. So a power thinker in the domain of reasoning has four internal processes of fair-minded arbitrator as an internal process, an unconstricted thinker as an external process, and unsuspicious. And I want to say suspicious. No, suspicious is different from auspicious. Suspicious is to be checking somebody out, blah blah blah. But auspicious means fearless, facing things, not run away. So it's an internal attitude. Auspicious completer, tenacious, being dogged, being persevering to see the end of what is at hand. So the second internal process of a power thinker within the domain of reasoning is unconstricted thinker. Unconstricted thinkers have no self-imposed restrictions. You have no self-imposed restriction. You don't say, I don't read in the morning. If necessity warrants that you have to read in the morning, read in the morning. I only read at night. If necessity warrants, in view of your goal, that you have to read at night, go and start reading at night. So unconstricted thinkers have no self-imposed restrictions. They don't let prior knowledge or experience become an impediment to effective decision making. Effective decision making. Power thinkers try and look at each new idea on its own merits rather than through the lens of their previous experience base. Remember, you've got to know your biases. Why is it that I'm reacting against this idea? What was it in my experience that could cause this impediment? And into what? That's where self-knowledge comes in. Because your experiences, you bring them to the open. You bring them to the fore yourself to be able to consider, why am I reacting against this thing in this way? Now, again, I'm saying to you, my face may look so dark and blah, blah. It's just that the lamp, the light that's been ordered is yet to come. And the lamp that could have helped me only to discover 5 minutes to the starting of the program that the bulb is gone. So I couldn't just go out and get it. And you guess what? The office is closed down. I'm the only one in the office building working on this broadcast tonight. So whereby others could have gone to help me get it. But unfortunately, I'm the only one. We're still in lockdown. So, but lockdown does not mean I can't come to my office to come and do the broadcast. So I came down on my own to come to the office to do the broadcast. So I'm a black man. You can see my face being black, but don't let that phase you out, okay? So we're looking at the second internal process for within the reasoning domain for a power thinker. So they don't let, which is unconstricted thinker. That is, it's not constricted, it's not looped together. It's not muddied up. It's not muddied up, unconstricted. There is nothing, there is no impediment in your heart to inspect the new idea. So power thinkers trying to look at each new idea on his own merits rather than through the lens of their previous experience base. I want to be a power thinker. So as we are looking at this book, analyzing and summarizing it, the lesson I want to take away from this is so you examine my internal processes within those three domains of reasoning, and the domain of insight, and the domain of self-knowledge, that is self-awareness. When I do that, my emotional intelligence will be increasing. It will be increasing. My skill will be increasing. So to become more of an unrestricted thinker, you have to avoid black and white thinking. Remember, some people, in their natural tendency is to see things in black or white. But the truth of the matter is that there are gray areas in life. And God doesn't only just live on the two extreme ends of the spectrum. There are gradients. There are gradients of colors. You can see also, even in the beauty of God, God creates extreme green. But then there are different hues of green. So those are gray areas. There are blacks. Black. Have you seen a black man and you say, that's a black man? I'm not a black man. I'm a brown man. Why? Because there are shades of blackness. So what he's saying here is that as an unconstricted thinker, you have to avoid black and white thinking within your reasoning. You have to give room for gray areas and acknowledge that in the real world, there is usually more ambiguity than you would like. Life is full of ambiguities. Why did this thing happen to him? I don't know. Why has it happened to me? You don't know. After I've done all these things, you don't know. Life is about that. But one thing that is sure as a child of God that you must develop a mindset for also is for you to know that it doesn't matter what things look like. If you love God and you are walking in his purpose, all things will work together for your good. And that's what Romans 8:28 is saying. And we know, you have to know. You have to know that you love God. You've got to have to know that the primary motivation of your life is your love for God. But it doesn't show in just vertical relationship, really. It must pan out in the horizontal relationship. That is, relationship is the bedrock of life dealings. And it starts with relationship with God. So here we're talking about avoiding black and white thinking, because your wife may be a black and white thinker that she doesn't see in the middle, or your husband may be a black and white thinker, and sometimes they can become classic prophet, as you could see from Romans chapter 12, 6-8, whereby we were given the spectrum of gifts that are always in our life, and some are classic in certain of these gifts. Even prophesying, let him prophesy according to the proportion of his faith. It's not prophesying by faith. It's looking at life through the mirrors, through the glasses of black or white. So if you are going to be a power thinker, you must be able to accommodate who don't see black and white, and don't condemn them. Don't think they are weak. They are not. They have strength in other areas. So avoid black and white thinking, and acknowledge that in the real world there is usually more ambiguity than you would like. Get comfortable with the gray areas embedded in each new idea, because there are always gray areas in life. There is always a blind spot to your view, and it takes somebody else who is not thinking black and white to be able to see that. So when a new idea comes, don't just this is unconstricted thinker. That is, you are not setting up an impediment again, inspecting that idea. So unconstricted thinker, this so much for English, Unconstricted thinker develop these internal processes, work with these internal processes in the reasoning domain, and master that. So if possible, or also now Unconstituted thinker also identify when you are using stereotypical thinking. Oh, I am black now. I don't think this will work. Or because blacks don't. That's a stereotype. I am a creation of God. God created me. So he has endowed me with certain gifts. What can somebody else do that I can't do? If I do it within the confines of my gift, anything is possible for me within the confines. I can't do everything. But within the confines of my gift, there are certain possibilities that I can what? I can pursue, I can follow, and they will yield the results. This is one of the possibilities. This is one of the possibility of the fact that I can teach from books. I can look and analyze books, review books, not review per se, summarize books that can help us to understand the skeletal structure of the book, because every book has a structure. If it is not a novel, even if it is a novel, because there are scenes, there are acts, there are different, they all have a structure. The way God has created us is that we are able to think structurally. Structures is what a system is. Structure is what a system is. So in power thinking, in the book written, Power Thinking, written by John Mangeri and Cathy Block, is saying this is the way you think that can change the way you lead. This way you think can change the way you lead. And it's saying there are three domains to your thinking: the domain of reasoning, the domain of insight, and the domain of self-knowledge. Listen, unconstituted thinker, internal process within that domain is what I'm only, within the first domain is what I'm still only considering concerning the book. And if possible, feed test segment of your decision first. Feed test. Look at a micro, test it at a micro level before it becomes a macro level, before you apply it on a macro level. And employ a good decision-making strategy which works for you, like weighted characteristics. Now, this is also to help you. There are decision-making strategy. Somebody's strategy may be, let me do a brainstorming on this. But another strategy could be, okay, let me do pros and cons. That is, I have pros and cons, and let me assign numbers to the pros and assign numbers to the cons. What is for and what is against? Okay, let me calculate the number of, this is weighted characteristics. These are the pros, these are the cons. That's a strategy for decision making. So that's what he's saying, that fittest segment of your decision first. That is, employ a decision-making strategy. It could be brainstorming, you could start with. Somebody says it's also called thought showers. Shower the thought. Put everything down on paper. Now rearrange and analyze. If I do it this way, because the whole purpose of this power thinking is for you to be able to make what? Decisions and solve problems after a considerable amount of thought. That's what the book is about. Remember, this broadcast is for mental empowerment. It's not for spiritual empowerment. It's to help you to be able, books that you will not normally read, so that I analyze the books and summarize the books for you, so that you can gain knowledge. Through that, you can increase your playing power in your platform, your business platform, or your organizational platform. Listen, this technology, this information age has become a level, has thrown things open for us. You have no excuse of saying, my father didn't have money, that's why I didn't go to school. My mother didn't have money, that's why I didn't go to school. Listen, you can self-teach yourself. This is being offered to you free on a platter of gold. Who knows what will happen later on? Who knows how God can use this one beyond what I'm doing presently? But take advantage of it. Somebody is giving to you free of charge. Who knows what is going to happen later on? But by the end of the year, you will have what? You will have summarized and analyzed 24 books. I think that possibility is it's amazing to me. It's enchanting to me. It helps me myself. So, lastly, under unconstricted thinkers, internal process, you can plan and prioritize carefully and deliberately. So you make the important decision first rather than making decisions which are expedient to get someone off your back. Many unconstricted thinkers even go so far as to make appointments with themselves to reach important decisions, ensuring that trivial matters don't take up too much time. That is, you assign time to the time you want to think. Then the next one, internal processes within the reasoning domain. 4 internal processes. This is not 4, this is 4. 4 internal processes within the reasoning domain. The fair-minded, you become a fair-minded arbitrator by facilitating negotiation and resolving conflict through dialogue rather than exercising authority. Secondly, you become unconstricted thinker. Thirdly, the third internal process within the reasoning domain, your conscious mind, is auspicious completer. That is, you develop a tenacity. Completers focus. That is what you start. You make up your mind you will finish. You better not even start it. That's what power thinking, this book is saying. You can get the book on Amazon, John Mangere and Kathy Block. It's 18 pounds on Amazon. So the third thinking process, internal process, that would eventually lead to 4 external process. The third one is completers, auspicious completer. Auspicious just means fearless completer. Somebody who says, I've started it, I have to finish it. Even though I'm almost dying, I have to finish it. Whatever it takes, I'm going to have to give it to it. I'm not going to be doing, I start, don't finish, start, don't finish, start, don't finish. And guess what? If it's a pattern in your life, you need help. Focus on one thing at a time. Don't bite too much. Don't buy more than what you can chew. So completers focus more on results and less on the methods used. Power thinkers try and identify any reason why they did not complete a task or attain their goal. Remember, as a leader, the core role of leadership, part of it is vision. It's vision role. And not only just vision role, and how you also implementing role, how you implement the role, how you implement your vision. And then you have the control, how you give control to others, how you encourage others. So there are 5 good core rules. So under the completers, in fact, in this book, because when you see leadership is the same. What is required in America is what is required in Nigeria, is what is required in Britain, is what is required in Qatar. The same principles. So power thinkers try and identify any reasons why they did not complete the task or attain their goal. This is done to try and learn how they can be more successful in the future. So to become more of an auspicious completer, this is a fearless completer. Replace excuses with rational explanations. Stop saying, I'm tired. What is making you tired? Replacing your excuses with rational explanations. That is, take responsibility for failing at this attempt and analyze what needs to be done better to succeed in the future. Stop blaming people for the reason why you fail. Stop blaming your wife for the reason why your marriage is not working. Stop blaming your husband for the reason why your marriage is not working. Look into yourself. Accept responsibility. Stop giving excuses. Yes, if you are not able to endure, because that's what it takes. It takes a lot of endurance. Who says marriage is a bed of roses? Haven't you seen what roses are made of? Thorns. There are times you sleep on the bed of thorns until you learn how to smoothen the thorns out and become roses for you. There is nothing on this side of heaven that comes cheap. Nothing good comes cheap on this side of heaven. Even if God offers it to you on a platter of gold, as He's done through Christ Jesus, you have to fight for it. You have to fight for what you want. But if you have excuses, your life is filled with excuses, forget it. You're not going to get it. So acknowledge also that most excuses come in 2 forms. Those you give others and those you give yourself. The one you give yourself are the most damaging. Stop giving excuses for yourself. Because if you give excuses for yourself, you will give it to others. And the others don't really mean much. It is your own honesty with yourself. You've got to be true to yourself before you can be true to others. Align the two more closely. That is the excuses you give to others and the excuses you give to yourself. Align them and be honest and forthright about the reason for your failure. Besides, it takes too much mental energy to keep both stories straight. Be open and honest with yourself. Offer apology rather than excuses. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't do it. I'm sorry, I didn't do it. Why you couldn't do it? I failed, period. And then you examine yourself why you failed. And take full responsibility. By doing this, you show you are trustworthy and that you genuinely want what is best for the organization or for the friendship or for the relationship. State what you have learned from the experience and what you will do differently in the future to gain self-respect. Do you know people find it difficult to be able to analyze issues in their life because it's too personal. But you got to have to be what? To diverge issues from being personal thing. Saying, no, let me look at these things objectively. Lastly, judicious analyst. And that's how we finish the first domain for tonight. And under that domain, we have looked at internal processes. We have not even been able to look at the external processes, but we have looked at the three internal processes. The last one is the judicial analyst. Let me quickly finish that off. Give me 1 more minute. Analysts use time as an analyst, judicious analysts use time as an ally to deal with problems. They don't get pressured into doing something that's not been carefully thought out beforehand. Power thinkers don't mull over problems endlessly, but they do make certain they employ sufficient time to come up with a workable solution to a problem rather than acting impulsively. So to become a judicial analyst, decide which strategy you will use to make a decision. I've given you 2 or 3 types of decision-making strategy: pro and con, weighted characteristics, brainstorming, or you can also, to become more of a judicial analyst, focus more on using the time available to consider viable alternatives and less on trying to be quick. Ask yourself 3 questions. Why is this a problem for me? What would need to happen for me to think this is solved? How can I get from the existing solution to my ideal? Put together your own decision-making checklist. Use a weighted characteristics test, that is pros and cons. 2 alternatives. If I do it this way, what's the value? If I do it this way, what's the numerical value? By assigning values to each step, each processes. This is the end for today. Just 1 hour, 2 minutes gone. Next week, we're going to continue with this. Thank you, those of you who are already thanking me. For our pastors in us and our leaders in us. Thank you so much. Now, you can go and read few pages of the book on Amazon. Power Thinking by John Mangihere and Kathy Block. Power Thinking. Kathy Block. John Mangihere. So, looking forward to seeing you on Sunday during the worship. And next Wednesday, as we continue with the Holy Spirit and you during our spiritual empowerment. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I pray and I hope that you have been blessed. I am blessed myself. So I believe the blessing is thrown to you as well. Thank you. God bless you. See you very soon. God bless.